Sarah, I'm so excited to have you back on the podcast and talk all things projector today. Thank you so much for being on the pod and yeah, for your time today.
Yeah, thank you for having me back. I'm equally excited to go deep and whatever comes up today.
Whatever may come up.
Yeah.
I do want to circle back to the question that I asked you, that I asked all my guests, because I think it's really cool to see how it changes and evolves. But what is your current practice with the divine feminine?
I love that you asked me that. I would say even from a year ago, the practice of embodying my own femininity, and I don't even want to say it, I'm a woman, obviously, but it's not the necessarily like the sex part of being feminine, but the energetics of the feminine energy that projectors are here to we operate more from. um, my theory on that is that we're here to bring that into this culture that's definitely lacking or in severe out of balance with the divine feminine energy. And my practices that have become really like rituals on a daily basis have been um, consciously slowing down even more and catching myself in, being out in the world with generators. There's a buzz in the air of go 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 go, and even they're going faster than their own design. And I can ride that wave, um, consciously pausing and just sitting outside with no agenda for some time out in nature, really absorbing the essence of the mother, um, putting my hands in the earth and saying prayer, um, and asking to be more connected, more aligned with more guidance from the earth. And then little subtle practices like consciously slowing down when I'm getting ready in the morning, allowing for moments of more tenderness, more soft, if I'm feeling some sort of way, just really nurturing myself. And I was actually speaking to my husband about this yesterday, even catching my mind, how critical I can be on myself, and choosing a kinder voice, a more spacious voice, a voice that I wasn't really um, ever around so much. So yeah, those are some little ways that I I connect with the essence of that feminine energy.
Mm. It's so beautiful to see that evolutionary process because I too have had that similar intention of just whenever I'm seeking the answer to something, the message I always get is just slow down, pause,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll hear it because projectors are so intuitive in that way. And it's so funny the different layers because if I think of my life like 5 years ago or even just a year ago, like I've slowed down immensely.
Mm,
But as you get deeper and you get more sensitive and you increase your intuition, you do have to like find other ways to slow down and to press pause. So I literally sometimes, like when you were saying slow mornings, it's if I can catch it right in the beginning and literally just feel like I'm pressing pause on my
mm-hmm.
day and going
Mm-hmm.
through almost like in a slow motion, like a 0.5x versus like the 3x, it really changes everything. But it is so hard, as you were saying, because we're surrounded by generators and that energy is also what fuels us. Like there's creativity in that energy as well, and it gets exciting. And sometimes the time between me acting on that energy and pausing and realizing I'm even acting on that energy like happens so quickly that I don't even know until I put
Totally.
myself out and I'm like, oh, I'm out of balance. I feel crazy right now. And that could take weeks, sometimes months to really come back and realize. But I noticed that time lapse does start to get shorter and shorter the more I awaken to it. But what is your advice for living in a world full of generators and having strong enough boundaries to not constantly like engage with that energy and staying strong in your projector
Mm.
slowness?
That's a million trillion dollar question, right? First and foremost is to really at the depth of our core believe that we aren't generators, and that our path here is not to look like them. It's not to be like them. It is not to function like them. We have a very different, I don't even want to say job description, because we don't work, right? So the projectors, that's a loaded one, but we have a very different mission. How about that? Our mission is different. I always say, if the generators are, monkeys climbing trees, we're fish and we need the water to swim. And if the fish keeps trying to climb this tree, um, even if we get to a certain branch, there's a payoff, there's an exchange of bitterness or burnout or still feeling like something's missing. And so it's to really, well, first I want to just say this, as this process of becoming a projector is most likely a lifelong process, because we have so many layers of the onion to unpack. And so it's not a rush. But one of the things, once we take the mission to say, I'm here and I want to live more harmoniously with my design, is then to realize I am different. And no one taught me this. I didn't go to a preschool that taught me how to exist. I didn't have parents that nourished the unique needs that I needed as a projector. And so when you first, swallow that pill, as good and as sometimes, hard as that is, then we stop comparing and trying to be out in a world where, we're needing to go to all the social events, or we're needing to put on all these functions, or trying to work and then go out after. We really begin to bring our energy back in and do the things that nourish us. That I say, there's things that are energy givers and there's energy takers. And when the projector's in alignment doing the work they love, there's a supply of energy that's much more graceful and easeful. I say, Taylor Swift and Barack Obama are projectors. They were doing what they love, and they have capacity to be out in the world. If we aren't doing what we love, or we are forcing ourselves or trying to be like a generator, then the energy that operates within us is very dense. And it leads us to pain, and mental pain, physical pain, all of these things. So recognize, number one, you aren't the generator, and it's never going to work for you to be like them. And then begin to prioritize, as you said, I forget exactly when you said it, but like when you catch yourself and you're in the buzz and you're going, it's like, that's a great energy. Can you, in the middle of that, take some 10 minutes to just come back to yourself, so that you don't go and totally overdo it, and then you're out a month or two because you've just totally put yourself into some sort of fatigue or something like that. So really, I just did a post on this. I said, for projectors, our keyword is regulation.
Mm.
When we catch ourselves dysregulated, can we bring ourselves back into regulation? And that's typically with practices like being in nature, not going out every night of the week, taking time alone, doing something that inspires you, where you feel creative, where you feel for the sake of being creative. So it's a lot of energy maintenance, I would say, and dropping the comparisons.
Mm. Part of being a projector too is when you become a master of your own energy, which I feel like is a huge part of the journey because you're so sensitive to it and really realizing how your energy works. You understand that there's an inconsistency because we're used to seeing the programming of the generators like exhausting out the energy, needing to do that in a full 8 hour day, so on and so forth. How do you find a balance as a projector of this almost inconsistency of energies, but at the same time wanting to be consistent, commitment in your business or in your relationships? Because there is a certain beauty to being committed and to being devoted in a sense. But
Mm,
at the same time, you have to like honor your own energy level. So it's coming from an authentic place. So
totally.
I kind of want to break down by a few things. So what does that look like in your kind of like day-to-day schedule of finding consistency?
Yeah, for me, the consistency is the way that I've kind of worked it in, is like, life is inconsistent, period. Things are always changing. So if if I have this rigidity around things having to look a certain way and being a projector where there is this ebb and flow, then I'm going to suffer more because I'm not allowing, what's in this present moment to be with me. My practice every morning, I do a practice of morning pages and I do a meditation, and I really drop in to my own field to see what is present. If I'm not dropping in to my own projector, nature, then life is going to dictate the day for me. Whoever calls me, if there's traffic or whatever, the grocery store, I'm just the sponge, absorbing everything, and I don't even know what's mine or what's that. Having that morning practice of dropping into myself and meditating, I will say, gives my energetic capacity some consistency. That starting the day with myself, and having that be routine creates like a safety in my system to where I can gauge, oh wow, today may be a bit more of a gentle day and I'm okay with that. So I'm going to, work this amount of time, and maybe I'm just going to need to rest more and not go to a yoga class. That might be where the adjustment is. Or maybe I'm going to rest more and, go on a walk instead of, going out with friends, and it's not it is what it is. My friends know if I have to not come, that's just part of who I am. And there's a respect there. And it's not that I'm trying to be flaky or cancel, but, my system's sensitive in that way. One thing I will also say, because I think, as projectors and many of us kind of churning these real heavy energies in this life and working and doing things, we aren't actually able to feel how much energy is available to us because we're actually just we're suffocated in energies of other people all the time. I have also found, so a morning practice, and then at the end of the day, my husband, who's also a projector, we also do a meditation and a journaling. We just kind of it's ways that we let our energy out, and then we do a shaking practice. And that is an energy giver. If we're doing things that are allowing the energy that we absorb throughout the day and we have a release for them, I find my energy is more consistent, and I don't have these I've been walking this deconditioning journey for 6 or 7 years. And I remember I would have all this creative energy and then almost like a high and just go and go and go. And I wouldn't sleep as much. And then I would crash and burn and I would lose it. And to your question, the pendulum has become a bit more like this, instead of like, wow, I'm up here, and then damn, I'm down here. Wow, I'm up here. Because throughout the day, I'm regulating my energy. I'm wringing out that sponge of what I've absorbed, and I'm prioritizing time to go within.
I love that. Daily energy maintenance, and mine mirrors you really similarly.
Mm,
The morning one is pretty much to a T. I do the morning pages
wow.
as well after my meditation practice. And it's like oxygen pretty much. Like I can't go on with my day without that. Otherwise, if I'm traveling, like every now and then, like I can feel my anxiety because I haven't been able to connect with my own energy, and it's a disconnection. And then yeah, at the end of the day, I cleanse my energy in a different way. I take a shower or like a sea salt bath
Mm,
or soft oil massage before. Like that is also so, like, I don't care what time of day I get home at,
yeah.
that is like a non-negotiable, because I also don't want to bring that energy into my bed. Like I actually can't, just because my dreams are such a safe haven of intuition and getting messages as well. It's just like, yeah, those are just complete fundamental elements for me, just a like baseline level.
Mm.
I'm curious now, what does this look like for you on a monthly basis? Like, do you find that you follow the rhythms of the moon and you
Mm.
notice those lulls, or yeah.
I love the rhythms of the moon and honoring the full moon and the new moon. I would say if there was rhythms I follow, it would be season. It would be seasonal rhythms, and um, the medicine of the fall or the winter or the summer. And I was joking with Charlie, my husband, about how for us, like, we're opposite of what the seasons actually dictate for most people. We're out here in the desert, and so like the summertime, because it's so hot, we're doing a lot of internal work. We can go out in the morning and then the evening, but then during the day we're doing a lot of our own, like it's giving us this time to kind of go within, which as a projector I think makes sense, because so much sun to projectors is exhausting. It's a lot, and the generating energy in summer is like play and out, and the world is buzzing and everyone's here, and so it's like this opposition of coming back and being like, oh, okay, well, you're all out, and the sacral energies are pumping and the sun is fueling. We're actually like, oh, okay, now we can kind of go and do our next layer of what the onions peeled for us, and how can we be more authentic. And yet we're receiving so much about projectors and all of this stuff. So I would say like and then when it's the winter time and it's a bit more, where the rest of the world's kind of within, I feel like I'm a bit more external, because it's less buzzy energy out there, or we kind of will move into our more ceremonial practices where we're communing in that way. But I think the seasons feel a bit more where I track that more than the energetics of the moon. But I know this last moon was freaking gnarly, so I can't say that I don't feel the impact of it as well.
Oh my gosh, right? Like, whoa. It was, yeah, I think probably the more intense ones of the whole year. But I agree. I have studied Ayurveda, which is very much
Mm,
science that's living by the seasons. And yeah, it's just such a natural way of living. It's really interesting you say that about summer too, because I love the energy of summer. I'm a Leo and I just love that like buzzy type of energy, but I definitely notice because there's more things to do, places to go, people coming, and just you could literally just like feel it. I mean, I live in Los Angeles, so obviously I'm around it very
mm,
easily,
mm,
but I need so much more alone time. I need so much more like boundaries just to be in my own energetic field just because of that. Like
mm,
I noticed like especially this past weekend, I'm like, you can just feel when your energy is like at a capacity. It's almost like when you're really full from eating a meal, like the same
mhm,
way I feel with like your energy. Like it hits a point and you're just like, I cannot take in any more information or any more stimuli. I need so much alone time, which I find is also a difficulty that projectors have to go through because other people may take it to heart, especially generators. They just like don't operate that like that. Like they constantly can be talking and engaging and going from one thing to the next. Like it doesn't even cross their mind about having
mm.
as much alone time as projectors need. So I have to constantly communicate that. And my close friends know by now, but how do you balance that of needing to have your own alone time, but also, not wanting to hurt anyone's feelings from not being able to maintain their energy?
Yeah, that's also a big one. Where I've landed on it is at this stage in life and moving into my alignment and prioritizing myself from a life of prioritizing everybody else and trying to be the pleaser and the overachiever and caring so much that at this point, with the most love and consideration in my heart, I have to choose what's best for me. And that comes with sitting with uncomfortable feelings of, oh my God, my family doesn't understand, or my friends think I'm a weirdo. Yeah, maybe. And at the end of the day, the truth of my friends and family want me to be happy and healthy. And I'm unwinding. I'm 42, so 42 years of conditions that were placed on me. I'm not blaming that. That just was the verdict of this life as a projector. And um, I've never, the more that I've chosen to prioritize me and unwind even the people pleasing part of me that has this guilt that's kept me doing the things that are keeping me sick, is a lot of what we were talking about at the beginning, this tenderness of like this voice of compassion, like that I'm telling myself and giving to myself, like this doesn't mean anything about you. You are totally worthy, and your friends will understand, your family will understand. And if they don't right now, they don't have to right now. That's okay too. It's not ideal. We want everyone to be happy all the time, but as adults, we realize that's not the case in life. And so it's not my responsibility to tend to other people's uncomfortable feelings. And that's really beautiful because I can be like, oh, they really want me around and that feels nice. And I do. And, um, I make plans when it feels good, and it's going to look different. This is a bit of a tangent, but I really feel that projectors who are finding out they're projectors and are, doing this work of wanting to, become more authentically them and understand how to be in life where it feels more easeful and enjoyable and less chaotic, that, you know, we're in this time period before there's this great change in 2027. And I feel like we're kind of holding the torch of doing this internal work, because that's what's going to be asked of the collective in 2027, because the mutation that's happening is in the solar plexus, it's in the emotional center, it's in the inner world. So me kind of pulling away and doing this, whether it's true or not, feels like this is exactly what we should be doing right now, because we're going to be in this great change where the world's going to have to look within and be with emotions. And that's one thing our culture has not been very good at being with. And so it starts with us getting comfortable with feeling uncomfortable.
Definitely. And it's the hardest thing to do in the moment. I want to go deeper into the 2027 stuff, but before I want to hit on some things that you said. The emotional responsibility, I think that projectors exclusively take on because they have that foresight and that wisdom that they just naturally have always taken that role. That is
Mm-hmm.
a huge one for me too, of not taking emotional responsibility for the other. But of course, the first time that you do it, or when you're asking to do it in a new way and it
Mm-hmm.
changes the relationship dynamic, you're of course are going to feel guilty. Of course, it's going to feel uncomfortable, but it really does get easier with that person. And like you said, it also inspires them that they can do it too, because oftentimes it's just triggering a new identity in them that they didn't know could exist, and they're afraid of losing their own. Like, who am I if I'm not this person? So I love that projectors can kind of be the role models in that sense of being able to regulate their own emotions, having strong boundaries, because every design needs to take time for themselves. Every design needs to have
100%.
that like introspection and reflection. And it's just that projectors who are becoming conscious to their energy fields like don't really have a choice in the matter. Otherwise their
Mm.
body's going to scream out to them. Like there's the message is a little bit more like louder and clearer, but it's definitely being sent to majority. So I would love to hear like deeper. We hear this a lot in human design, like in 2027 there's going to be a huge shift. You mentioned that there is something happening in the solar plexus, so I would
Mm-hmm.
love to dive deep into all of that.
Yeah. So in like very like simple terms, there in 2027, Ra spoke about the great change that's happening on this planet, and it's because there's a transmutation in gate 55, which is found in the solar plexus. Solar plexus is the emotional center. And if we looked, everything kind of weaves together. If we look at the journey of the human species for the last thousand of years being run more by patriarchal standards, masculine energy, out of no feminine, and it's not been in balance. One of the things that has been written out of our culture has been emotional well-being. Emotions have been the scary word. We come from parents and generations where you just shove things under the rug, or that wasn't a thing that you do, and it's just like, and then enter in addiction, enter in insecure attachments, enter in people pleasing tendencies, like all these coping mechanisms, because no one's taught us how to be with emotions. And then life just has it where that's the mutation that's happening in gate 55. And the mutation, gate 55 goes from a lower vibration of victim to a higher vibration of freedom.
Mm.
That's where we want to go, feeling free. And because while we're operating unconsciously a victim to our emotional states, that's the truth. Not just projectors, we all are running from feeling, or running from fear, or doing things to be doing something externally to try to fill something internally. And projectors, we entered in 1781, and it was a transmutation as well. So we're this like new species that's been here for less than 300 years. And we come in my opinion, as the exaggerated case of what life, the universe, God, whatever you believe, the exaggerated, like where we don't have a choice. We have to tend to we have to, or if we don't, we become very sick and burnt out and all of these other things. But we're this exaggerated version of where I believe life is wanting all of humanity to be. And so here we are, projectors, finding this stuff out. We are actively becoming more aware of our inner worlds so that we can radiate out a frequency of, well, the projector frequency, which is more feminine. It is more spacious. It is more about being present. It's more about our internal world and being aligned there, and then not needing to produce or achieve or accomplish as much. It's existing in harmony. So we radiate that out. And then, again, this is all hypothesis, nothing's proven, but, after 2027, where it's been said that projectors are going to be more recognized for the gifts that we have, the gifts come through our aura, the invitation, because let me say that again. People will find us if we are in alignment. It will be the aligned projectors that are going to be recognized, and generators and the rest of the world being like, what is that frequency you're emitting? How did you get that? Because we have to be, we're not the new manifestors. The projector has a little bit of an ego check, because we're not a guide unless someone says, I want you to be my guide. And that just because they say they want it, we have to maintain that level of respect and invitation. And so I think, life put that in as a humbleness to not create this hierarchical structure where it's like, we're the new kings in the town. Like, it's not that. And the way that we stay in being seen is, again, our aura, which is the most penetrative. It's the most intense of any of the types. Our inner world is our aura, our emotional well-being, our mental, if we're running 1,000,000 miles a minute, we might have all of the wisdom, but our energy is like, whoa, it doesn't matter how much we know. So long story short, I said I was going to be brief, and now here I am rambling. The 2027 time that's coming is going to be an emotional makeover for our culture.
Wow. That is also fascinating. I'm happy you dove into all those facets, because I didn't even know that really was how it happened. So yeah, that makes so much sense though, because you already kind of see the desires and the hinting at it of people going inward and this rise of the divine feminine and certain things like this picking up. I think the hardest thing though is how much our systems, like you said, are around patriarchal views, and how opposite it is of that right now, that it's such a slow burn probably to get there. But um do you have, and this is what I struggle with too sometimes, is seeing examples of people who are really living their design. And I get it,
Mm,
like, no shame or judgment to anyone. It's really hard in this world to feel like you can be successful living in that way and being able to get that recognition. Do you feel like, even though it's before 2027, it's possible when projectors are in alignment to feel successful in that way? And then two, who are some examples, I don't know if there are any at this point,
mm,
of people that we would maybe all know that are living this way and are achieving this success?
yeah. So there's a few keywords or concepts that I think will be helpful when we understand success and alignment. So first, alignment isn't, I don't get past my threshold of energetic container. So we're not here trying to walk perfectly as this like totally aligned, meditative monk that's one with all, and if someone's there, amazing. But my understanding and what feels easier to me is, am I able to come back to my center in a more in the most graceful way? Am I able to catch myself, you know, 10 minutes before I go to overwhelm, 20 minutes before I go to overwhelm? Am I doing things like wringing out my energetic sponge throughout the day? So I do have a level of consistency? Am I starting to feel more inspired in life? Are invitations flowing? Am I prioritizing being seen right now, or am I prioritize like seeing myself inside? You know, and that to me is the marking of success and alignment. It's not someone perfectly walking, because life is imperfect, and we are going to have, you know, things happen in our personal life and our family life and our, you know, life is a lot of unknowns. But if I feel that I'm living from my inner adult, where many of us are living from their inner child or their inner teenager. We're doing things that we've done our whole life, trying to be seen, trying to be successful, and it's not yielding that. So have I redefined, and this is the second thing I wanted to kind of just bring light to, or a new concept, is the definition of success for a projector is not the same definition as we know it in the generating world. So we're moving from this generating world where success is, and I don't want to say that we can't become successful in the material world or want these things. It's not that, but that definition of what we thought success was, number one, hasn't yielded people to be whole and connected and feeling good. It's only yielded a desire to get more things. Success to me, for projectors and for all humans in life, is to feel emotionally connected and resolved within self, that we're actually not needing so much external things to feel a certain way, that we find joy in deep connections with our family and friends, sipping tea under a tree and not needing anything more. We find inspiration through whatever life wants to create through us, whether it's art or a new project, and we're feeling that sense of creative energy coming through us and fueling us. Not, I have to do this because I need to succeed and I need to make more money, and that level of density and pressure. Um, you know, I would say there's probably many projectors that are walking authentically, and we don't know it because their desire for being fully seen isn't necessarily what they're trying to get. I would say, in a lover or hater, the Taylor Swift, I think, is a beautiful example of a projector who is beyond successful and walked her own dang path. And she went through, she's a 5-1 like me. So she's a perfect 5-1, that double projector of, depending on the chapter of her life, people saw her in so many different angles and lights and judgments. And she, the first woman to sing her diary, like she literally is singing about heartbreak and boyfriends and things that no girl ever did, right? So, and she has that projector, childlike spirit that comes through, and she's talk about someone who has energy. She's doing over almost like a 2-year tour around the world. So, I would say in some regard, she followed true to her heart. And, life, and I think I say this to all of us, we're not supposed to fit in, and we're not supposed to be understood. And if our sense of self, which is a lot of us, has been based upon fitting in and being understood and being liked, it's going to be a very conflicting journey coming into your projector world, and then also trying to hold on to those values. So the more you let go of that, I think the more that life begins to come through you, because you were designed different on purpose not so long ago. So I'm trying to think of any other projectors off the top of my head that I could say are, we have a community call, and I would say many of them are living in a much more harmonious way, and pulling back this notion of what success is, and then becoming more successful because of that.
Totally. I love that shift so much because I help a lot of women becoming intuitive healers, and a huge grief that they have is our culture not valuing these intuitive gifts that they have. Um, and because we've gone through a period where they've been devalued, they're afraid to share them because they're afraid to charge for their services, and they
Mm,
feel like they're not worthy of it, or like having a voice, and all these things that have come up from it. And I do see that shift happening in 2027 towards that, like you said, like
mhm,
really valuing the inner world and connection. And ultimately, what is that? That's the connection to the divine, so you can
mm,
have more of this transformational wisdom running through you. So that's like one specific way in which I could see that coming out more into the world. But already we're starting to see so many more people every year. I feel like the spiritual community just keeps growing and growing if everyone's interested in all these different modalities, and that there's so much power in those. And it's the same thing. I love that reflection on Taylor of being able to share her inner world and express it to the world. Like, it's so vulnerable and it's so hard to do, and you really have to dive deep into your own inner world to find
mm.
like the truth and the vulnerability of it all. Like, she does it in such like a fun and exciting way, but it's me, I'm the problem, it's me, like so profound. Like,
So totally.
it's who's gonna ever say that, like, or admit that about themselves. And like it's the same thing of like, she changed it into comedy, into art, like that, and help people to process their feelings more. Like, I could go on about it, like that's such a beautiful connection. I had no idea she was a projector, but I really love it's like a change in our values. And I also love that you said we're not meant to be understood, because that is a grief that I constantly have to go with, even
Mhm.
for the people that I love and are closest to me. It's like this dichotomy between projectors just like wanting to be seen more than anything. And we do have that like ultimate power to see people. Like, I can see a stranger that I'm speaking to on the airplane, and we have this really profound connection. And I'm able to see them in their wholeness in a very quick amount of time, right? But sometimes when you don't have that reflected back to you, it's just like there's such a grief in that. So, how do you kind of rectify that of like being able to see other people so deeply, but then also having a desire to be seen and understood in your wholeness?
This has been such a good question because this has been like this deep inquiry that I've been on. And I will just say this, in terms of like, yeah, my own vulnerable share, like, and this is, I think, common with many projectors. It's in our chart to be recognized, to be seen. But the way that we desire it from this generating world is from the ego. It's this part of us. And what happens is life, again, is wanting us to not live from the ego. It's coming into the heart, into the emotions, into the softening. When we have that, I want to be seen, what gets communicated out of our aura is like screeching, and everyone's like, or like, you're seen, but for a way that you aren't thinking you're being seen, right? So, and this is, again, I have such compassion for us because this journey for projectors is fucking hard. Like, it's not for the faint of heart. We signed up for walking away from a culture and getting beat up with it. But I would say for the projectors that aren't feeling seen, it's because you're not seeing yourself. You're not actually spending time with you and finding who you are and letting that um, authentic version of yourself come through and be, because it's you. And it's that when we are that, and I have goosebumps, like when we are able to see me, I can see you, I know you, I love you, I'm with you, I feel safe with you, I'm doing things that are supportive for you. When we nourish ourselves by doing all the things we've talked about and pulling away from life and uncovering beliefs that we're holding on to that aren't supporting us, or behaviors, and we begin to unhook, and we feel this expansion from our hearts, we feel the feminine and masculine energy running through us, but we're existing without needing, is when we're seen. When I show up to a gathering and I'm just a witness and I feel peaceful, people are coming to me because they're feeling something, I don't know what, but they're feeling something different than when I'm at the dinner table and it's like, let me tell you that I was on a podcast this week, and everyone's like, okay, awkward, weird, weirdo, or something like that. There's a difference of that. And again, I have to be so loving to that part that's trying to be seen in a way in this culture that was the only way I was seen in life, most likely projectors, is we were having to accomplish in our family systems. We were having to get the awards or finding the next thing to be seen. So we're conditioned to be seen in a way, and we're designed to be seen. So it's not like we're doing anything wrong. It's just the operating system has to change.
Totally. And I even think about social media, like especially right now, it's just like the most in your face things that like pull
Oh,
your attention, and like that is what we see as people succeeding. So like there's this constantly programming of like be loud, be in your face. And I love that you said peace, because truly when I've most recently like been able to go inward and feel in alignment, like that is my affirmation. Like that is when I feel
mm,
like I'm at my most successful, is this like just inner peace and calm of like total acceptance of how everything is, because I know I co-created everything in my life right now, and I have goals and I have visions of where I want things to go and everything, but everything is exactly how it is and supposed to be right now. There's truly no greater feeling I've found that like
mm.
that to me is ultimate.
That, yeah, I think that is this surrender to what is in this moment, wishing it was different, brings us into that suffering, and we can have moments of like, this is hard and I wish that's okay. Like be with those emotions, but coming back into trust. And yeah, this I'm reading a book right now on it's a Buddhist philosophy on cultivating a tender heart, and part of the cultivation is a practice of patience.
Hmm.
And for us, we've been struggling so hard, it makes sense that we come with this motor of like, fix it now, this energy. I'm suffering, I'm been sick. Of course that's valid. And the quickest way to get there is the slower way, the tortoise, not the hare. And not, we can't decondition overnight. We can't, that would be scary. We do it at a pace that life wants it to.
The last question that I want to ask you, because I have always loved following your page and your messages
Mm,
are always so timely, and it's just the perfect juicy drop of projector comfort that I need to hear in the
mm.
moment. And speaking on what we kind of just slightly touched on with social media and kind of feeling like things are like very grabby and in your face, how do you show up authentically as a projector on your page between balancing like, okay, I want to be seen, I want to work with clients because this is so fun, but I also want to really honor my own energy?
Yeah. Um, you know, Work in progress for me even. I authentically want to with our Instagram page, like want to share in a space that feels authentic to the, like, not every single day or just bombarding and all of that. Um, One of the other ways is I set out time 1 or 2 days a week where I give like effort there. And then it's like, that's all I do. I'm not obsessing over it. We're not, and a lot of times, when we do lives or shares, like we set intention of what we're wanting to give to the world versus being focused on how many likes, how many, letting that go and just trusting and believing the messages that we're sending are meant to find the people that are supposed to find. And then um, one thing that's also really helped kind of the ebb and flow of my work schedule is I only work with one private client a day. That's what my energy can do. But we did create a community once a week where I'm able, that platform just works well for me. So there's, I think we have over 200 projectors. They're not all live, but I'm able to reach more people in a intimate way, projectors. And that feels like I feel like I'm able to accomplish a lot more than having to do it, 10 calls a day or 6 calls a day, that I'm able to, be of service and give, support people, but it's in a, um, it's one time a week that's offered. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing all your
Yeah.
wisdom. I got chills too multiple times throughout this
Mm,
recording, and it's just the best having a conversation with projector where you can go that deep. Like I could actually
mm,
also feel throughout the conversation like the penetration of each other's aura and just being like so in sync and connected. It feels the best, and I love what you're doing and all the wisdom that you're sharing on
Thank
your
you.
page. So I'll
Thank
share
you.
your Instagram page so everyone could follow you. Is there anything else that you've got going on that you want to share with our community or how they can connect with you?
Just that, well, first, thank you. I feel the same. Projectors watching this, like being with other projectors, talking to other projectors, it's so healing. It's such a talk about being seen, like two of my best friends, we just voice memo throughout the week. There are projectors and it's helpful. So I share that like connection with you as well, just like feeling that vibing in a good way and realness and authenticity. So thank you. And the only thing I would offer for projectors that are wanting to be in a deconditioning community, this is, I think, the largest deconditioning community where if you're wanting that one-on-one support, you're wanting guidance, and just to be held with the projectors only, it's a special space that we do every Wednesday.
I love
So there's a link in the Instagram for people who wanna see it.
Perfect. We'll have that linked in the show notes.
Thank
Love you,
you.
projectors. Thank you for tuning in.
Yay.
I hope you feel seen. And
Mm.
we'll see you all next time.